So let's talk about why intelligent, smart people fail when it comes to building a business online. Hey friends, welcome to the channel. And if you're new to the channel, I talk about all of the things that you need to actually grow your business, to be able to build the lifestyle that you actually want. Now, we all know the very common expression of you've got to work hard, you've got to be able to work smart, you've got to put in the 10,000 hours. The same principles apply when you're building a business as a brick and mortar store as to a business on the internet. A lot of the information we're consuming is actually garbage. There, I said it. It's garbage. Why? Because people are selling this shortcut. They're talking about their success. They're talking about their wins. They're talking about how quickly they did things. They don't often talk about all the years that they put in to actually get to that point. All the failures, all the experiments, all the testing, all the marketing, all the tears, all the failures, all the experiments that have gone into getting them to that point. And so on the outset, when we see a YouTube video in our feed, or we see something on Facebook, or we see something on TikTok, or wherever you're consuming content, you all of a sudden see this message of like, oh, this guy's made money doing this particular thing, or maybe they're selling templates from Canva, or they have Shopify dropshipping store, or they have put together a course and they're making money. All of these things are good and they all work. But the problem is, when we're trying to start an online business, there are a couple of things that we're just failing at. So one of the biggest things that we actually fall prey to is this thing called procrastination. So for me, one of the things that I have been struggling with and am still struggling with is this whole imposter syndrome thing of, am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? Am I worthy of actually putting a course out? Am I worthy of working with my clients? Even though I'm delivering results for people and I've worked with over 125 clients so far over the last 6 years, it's still a thing that I constantly am battling. It feeds into my procrastination. It feeds into this lack of action. And I'll get into that in a little bit here now. You always hear people saying, oh, you've got to do what you love. And I 100% agree with that. Yes, you need passion. Yes, you need to do things that you're interested in. You need to say no to a lot of things. But in the beginning, you have got to just say yes to everything. You've just got to accept that money is going to come to you only if you deliver a service or only if you deliver value. One of the things that I highly recommend is, before you actually get going with anything, try to think about what are the things that you love doing. What are the things that are interesting for you? What are the things that you think you could actually monetize or you could actually serve somebody with? One of the things that I see people doing often is they're overthinking things, and they're constantly in this loop of thinking about doing something, thinking about doing something, thinking about doing something, but not actually doing the thing. And so when we're overthinking things, that again plays into the procrastination, it plays into our fears, it plays into, am I not good enough, our imposter syndrome, all of those things. Overthinking things is a major cause of failure for people. The overthinking actually doesn't even get you started. Playing into the overthinking is the fact that because we're overthinking, we're not actually doing the work. And if you're not actually doing the work, then how do you expect anything to be successful? How do you expect your project to be successful? How do you expect to get that job? How do you expect to get that client to pay you X amount of money for a particular service? How do you expect people to watch your YouTube videos if you're not uploading any YouTube videos? And one of the reasons why people are not doing the work is because they're consumed with social media. They're scrolling through their Facebook feed, or they're watching YouTube videos endlessly for hours and hours and hours, or they're watching Netflix, or they're just consuming content all the time with this guise of, I'm learning stuff. And sure, something that you learn on YouTube of how to do a particular thing can be useful. I learned how to ride a motorbike from YouTube, and when I actually got on the motorbike the next day to start the motorbike and get the training, get the lesson that I needed to actually figure out how to ride this thing, I was okay because I kind of understood some of the dynamics from the YouTube video. But a lot of us are not actually taking the action. We're not uploading the videos. We're not writing the blog posts. We're not putting up the website. We're not messaging people and DMing people. We're not putting content out there to provide value and to give people the awareness that we exist. One of the things that we just have to do when it comes to finding our voice is actually publishing content. This is one of the reasons that I'm doing this particular video, is because I recognize the fact that I have to get content out there, I have to get my name out there, and I have to tell people what I do, give value, show you what's possible, and only in that way that I can actually grow my business. I spoke about how you have to think about all of the things that you're interested in. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they're interested in too many things, or they haven't been able to prioritize what's interesting for them and what they want to focus on. So what I would suggest you do is make a list of all the things that you're interested in, maybe even draw yourself and label all the things around you that are interesting to you, and then pick a particular thing or find a theme around, whether it's creative work or whether it's making YouTube videos or starting a YouTube channel or creating a course, or whatever the thing is that you can actually do and provide a service with that you can actually get paid for. Group those interests together, maybe identify one particular thing and then focus on that, because that thing, if you give it enough focus and if you give it enough attention, if you give it enough time to grow and develop, then that could be your thing. But it only will become a thing if you focus on that thing. One of the other things I've seen and I've heard people talk about when starting an online business is the fact that they are trying to do it quickly, right? You start up your email newsletter and you're expecting to make all of this money in a split second. You start your website, or you start your YouTube channel, or you start creating content and you start doing all of these things. And the reality is that if you look at an iceberg, then the tip of the iceberg is only what you see on the surface, right? These are the Instagram posts that are shown to you when you're just browsing through and you're not familiar with an account. These are the YouTube videos that you see of millions and millions of views because YouTube thinks you're interested in those, but you don't see the 1,000 other videos that creator has made to actually get to that point where he's got a viral video that's got a million views. The bottom of the iceberg is all of that time, all of that effort, the 1,000 videos, the 100 videos, the 500 videos that you've got to upload to YouTube to be successful, the 100 clients that you need to speak to be able to get one person to say yes to you. Those are the things that need to be done up front. Those are the things that you need to be patient on and actually do and be persistent on and continue to just have that perseverance to push through. And another thing is that people are not learning the skills they need to actually, one, run a business, and two, to actually operate that business online. Now, online business and offline business are pretty much the same, except for the fact that online business has got all these tools and all this technical jargon and all of these metrics and all of these things that are just not visible when it comes to a physical business. And so learning the language, learning the skills, learning the way that websites work, learning how to actually collect payments on the internet, and all of these things are getting easier, but learning the foundations of what you need is one of the biggest reasons why people are failing, is because they just don't understand. They just haven't put the effort in to figure out how content marketing works to attract people to your business, to your website, to your videos, and then convert those people into clients, maybe on a phone call or on a webinar or whatever. All of those words that I've just used, a lot of people are getting more familiar with, but there's still a lack of understanding in terms of the business side of, well, how do these things actually all function and how can we make things a little bit more efficient and easier to use. Another reason why people are failing is because they just don't have the accountability. Sure, we need to have self-discipline, we need to form those habits, we need to create that lifestyle for ourselves where, if we're working from home, we're disciplined enough to be able to wake up at a certain time, get the works done, do the videos that we need to do, email those clients that we need to email, follow up with those people that need to pay us, do all of the things logistically and financially that we need to do in our business, but then also find a way to be accountable. Now, whether it's going to be your wife, or whether you're going to be accountable by a mentor or a coach, or maybe even a cohort-based course where there's an accountability group and you start making friends. Now, when we're hired by a client, it's pretty easy because you either do the work or you don't. If you don't do the work, you're not going to get paid. If you do the work, you're going to get paid. And if you do a really good job, maybe they give you more work, or they give you a referral to somebody else who needs the work. When you're holding yourself accountable to create your own products, to create your own systems, to create your own videos, to build up maybe your own YouTube channel or products of your own, when you don't have that level of accountability, that's when you can get stuck in the overthinking, in the not doing the work, in binge watching videos, watching Netflix. You can get stuck in this mode of, hey, there's nobody to answer to. Sure, if you're in a corner, yes, that fear, that failure, that feeling of you need to get this done is going to drive you, but it's only going to drive you to a point where you might hit a ceiling. And so when you get to that ceiling, you need somebody else, or you need some other system, an accountability system, to keep you moving forward, to keep you going. But that accountability system is also designed to not just motivate you, but also to keep you on track, to give you feedback. These are the things you're doing right now, but you need to improve on these things. What are the steps that you can take to make improvements, to start looking at yourself and start critically analyzing, but in a good way, that things that you can make better. Mindset is another thing that people are failing at in business, but also just in life generally. One of the things that entrepreneurs talk about a lot is growth mindset. Having a growth mindset is important if you want to build a business, if you want to improve yourself, if you want to make better videos, if you want to just continuously improve things, where you're feeding your mind, you're feeding your body, you're feeding your business with positivity, with good vibes. You're learning new things, you're taking those courses, you're attending lectures, you're attending webinars, you're studying how people are doing things. That's a full-time job, and that's something that you have to have turned on all the time. Now, having a proper mindset is something that I still work on. I go to therapy often so that I can actually discuss some of the private things that I need to talk about that I can't talk about to maybe my accountability buddy, or in a cohort-based course maybe. But it's something that I can definitely rely on, and I can say that having that person to speak to has helped me just not only get clarity in my own mind, but also to help me prioritize what's important, to keep me on track, to keep me accountable to my own values and my own integrity, but also just helping me keep that growth mindset in check, where when you have a growth mindset, you can very easily get into like this egotistical way of thinking, where it's just things are just too far out there. You just haven't sparked that flame to actually get you fired up enough to actually make a move, to actually start doing the work. The other thing that's very, very common when it comes to building a business on the internet is treating the internet like a hobby, like a place to play around. Now, there's nothing wrong with having fun. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be having fun, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't be interesting. I'm not saying it shouldn't be fun. In fact, the opposite. It needs to be interesting. It needs to be fun. It needs to be something you love. But there's this fine line between understanding that this is not a place for, just raw consumption, right? When we're consuming content, we've got to be constantly thinking, using that growth mindset and saying, well, how can you actually apply this particular tweet, or how can you apply this particular YouTube video in your business, or how can you use that to create content? How can you steal like an artist, like Austin Kleon says, to actually convert that consumption into something useful that you can actually use to create something else, right? Not to copy the information, but to transform that information with your thought process and your creativity to put out into the world, to give it to the world and say, hey, I think this thing about this particular thing. Now, people on the internet are using the internet as a play place, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, a lot of people are using social media just for consumption. They're using it to watch cat videos, or just to have a good laugh, to watch comedy skits. They're using Netflix to just chill. But when it comes to running a business on the internet is our marketplace. The internet is our place of communication. The internet is our place for making friends, for meeting people, for doing deals, for getting work, for getting paid, for building our lifestyle. And so when you think about those steps that you need to take to actually build up your lifestyle, to be able to build your business, to be able to create this environment around you that people can depend on you, and that you can survive, but not only survive, but thrive and live and do all of the things that you want to do, treating the internet like a hobby or as a place to just mess about is not the right mindset, in my opinion. One of the things that I think you should do when you're actually building your business online is find ways to automate your processes. Find ways to, one, document your process, and then two, find ways to mitigate risk and make things a little bit more efficient by actually automating things. Now, I'm not saying replace all the human beings in your business, but there are certain elements, there's certain aspects that you need when it comes to advertising, when it comes to moving information from one side to the other, when it comes to communicating with people via your email list, or even planning out social media posts or scheduling YouTube videos. There are a bunch of automations that you can have in place that actually that are quality of life things, but actually help you save a ton of time. If I were to recommend one resource that you could use to actually figure out how to build this online business thing, Hassan Kuba and Ash Ali have actually written a book called The Unfair Advantage. And they talk about this concept of not only niching down, but also this bigger, broader picture of, well, how do you actually gain success on the internet? And a lot of it comes down to niching down, understanding what your interests are, understanding what your unfair advantages are. And I recommend reading that book. Those are the things that I think that causes failure when it comes to business online, and not just for any ordinary people, but intelligent, smart, entrepreneurial type people that are also falling into this trap. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching the video. If you want to check out more videos, there's a playlist over here. I recommend you checking those out if you want to learn how to run your business online. And with that being said, thank you so much. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.